Well, I'm on my way to the landfill today to go pick up my chipped up yard waste that I throw all over the desert floor. It's like my little thing that I do. All right. So I go over this mountain with an empty truck, and then I come back with a full truck, and they give it to me because it's waste. They make thousands of dollars by charging people to drop it off at their site, and then they chip it up and they give it to me and other people that go by and with an empty truck and let them fill up their truck, right? And I can get about 2,000 pounds a day in this truck if I make one trip, which if you stick with me on this video, you'll see why probably it's only one trip a day. I mean, I've been really motivated before and done 3, but it's hard because this doesn't have a dump bed. See, look at this. People are assholes. You know, they won't pay the $20 or $10 it costs to get rid of it at the dump. So they just come out here and they dump it out. You know, because this obviously looks like a great place that shit should just be dumped, right? But yeah, anyway. What if there were recycling centers that would have accepted all of that stuff for free, and it would have gotten separated into its useful items? And, you know, I mean, this is a resource that I come and gather from a lot. You know, it's crazy what people come out here and throw away. You know, they've thrown away a hose because it has a hole in it. So I shortened it and made 2 hoses. You know, I spent $10 instead of 40. You know, I spent $10 on 2 of them fittings, and you've got 2 hoses, right? Or like there's that freezer that was sitting there. That sucker had stickers on it. You know, it was probably that somebody's power went off, their food spoiled, and instead of cleaning it up, they just decided to throw it away. And instead of being responsible and throwing it away, they said, well, hey, let's just go out to the middle of the desert and dump it off the back of our truck, right? Because that's what makes sense. Anyway, yeah. So, enough about people who just aren't responsible. Let's talk about drivers, right? I know some people who are some pretty fantastic drivers. It's just that they won't spend the attention necessary to do it. You know, they get distracted really easily. I don't believe that accidents happen. I believe that people not paying attention to how they're operating a 6,000 pound missile happen a lot. Like on this, I know of a person that if there is any sand on the road, they are peeling their tires out. It's like an all or nothing endeavor with them. If you don't know how to throttle control, you'll tear up your tires on rocks like this. So anyway, this is my little journey every day. So these tires are really holding up. I've only had one flat tire. And of course, it was when the truck bed was full of material instead of when it's empty. Everything's readily accessible. This is the road I came on to find my property. I didn't know where it went. I just knew it was headed in the general direction of where I wanted to end up. And the property I got, it wasn't listed with the real estate agents or anything. It was just somebody doing a for sale by owner, and no advertising or anything. And really, I really lucked out. I mean, it's a cool piece of property. It gets a intermittent creek with a snow melt off, and I've been transforming it using terracing and hugelkultur. Something this guy I'm gonna offer my consultation services to, see if he wants to do something with his property that will preserve water and help keep his aquifer sufficient for this well to pull water from it. So I'm just gonna make this video. I'm just gonna keep talking. We're gonna hang out for a little while. I was really surprised. I was able to make a 1-hour video the other day without the battery dying or the memory running out. So maybe things are looking up. So this is called Yakima Ridge, and this is on the north end of Yakima, Washington. And what a cool area, you know. I mean, I've lived like Johnny Cash. I've lived everywhere, man. And I chose this place intentionally. I know some people are like saying, "What the?" Yeah. Anyway, yeah, on purpose. I got a good deal on my property. I had a job within like 3 days of being here. There's a lot of opportunities, and most everybody I meet are actually pretty cool folks, and I enjoy it. I mean, it's, you know, kind of a rough area. I mean, you know, there's a lot of gang activity, and there's you know, like everywhere, there's a homeless problem, and there's but I think that there's solutions. Well, I don't think that there's solutions. I know that there's solutions. I don't have to believe there's solutions. I know there are solutions to all the problems we face. And all of this area out here, you can see that it's basically just an eroded landscape. But what I'm doing on my property is catching that winter water, and it's allowing it to soak in and recharge the aquifer. And with the mulch that I pick up, it kind of helps hold it at the surface. And the mulch contains all sorts of seeds. So I've got trees popping up, and you know, and lots of weeds too. But the weeds, I dig a hole, and I put the weeds in the hole. It puts the weeds in the hole. And it makes soil, and it makes little cells that the roots and stuff can gain nutrients from for the plants, right? It makes the soil more like a sponge than a shingle. And you look down here, this is the springs. So on top of this hill, all the way up here, it's all dry. But where the water has ended up for a long enough time, or where the water, you know, from the hillsides is coming out, is down in this area. You know, and so this area is lush. It's a forest. But now, as soon as we get back out to, oops, that quail almost became a flat snack. So, you know, we've got some elderberry bushes and a bunch of silver lace vine kind of taking over down into these little gullies where the water run off. It's probably not on the surface, but a lot of these have really deep tap roots, and so the water's still traveling underneath it. It's just, you know, maybe 6 feet down or 10 feet down. And that's where, if we engineer our landscapes so they collect the water that falls on it, and we need to start at the top, right? We need to engineer things from the top so that way they don't become a burden on those below them, you know, because that's the way gravity works, and that's how water in the form of rain and snow melts off and usually is causing flooding and erosion. And then because it was flooding and eroding and it wasn't sticking on the land, then we have drought and famine. And so holding the water to the land really makes it to where we can have an abundant landscape without heavy input of, you know, like human input. Once we build our landscapes to where they hold on to water and they're creating an abundance of growth, you know, that's when animals start to really thrive, because there's food, right? And when animals start to thrive, well, that's pretty good for everything, right? I mean, you know, because we're an animal too. And so, and when the animals are thriving and they're eating up the undergrowth and they're pooping fertilizer onto it, the soil becomes healthier, and it becomes fungal base versus bacteria base. And when it becomes fungal base, we start to get, fungus, mushrooms, right? And when we have mushrooms, a lot of those mushrooms are edible. And so we have an edible landscape that is reducing fire, flood, erosion, drought, and famine, right? Because fire doesn't happen on green plants, not very easily. You know, you have to really get things to burn, like with directed energy and things that happen in places like Maui, right? I mean, that's kind of strange how all that's going down. But we can't talk about that. So we'll get back to what we can talk about, which is water preservation and little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tack. They're destroying the landscape and building boxes of ticky-tack that catch on fire and cost 30 years or more to pay for. And then it's still not paid for, because then that person sells it, then somebody else has got 30 years to pay for it. So that person can die with $700,000 in their bank account. Right? That makes sense. Yeah. So anyway, like some of these houses I saw on a real estate deal the other day on Facebook Marketplace, and it was $280,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house on just a little city lot. And I was like, holy crap. Why is that even a thing? How is that possible? You can go buy all the materials to build that house, watch a couple YouTube videos on how to put together some boards, how to put together some plumbing, do some electrical, and you can build that house for less than $100,000. No problem. I will help you consult on how to do it. Maybe we'll do a series or something, because if people are interested in getting away from a mortgage, that's one way of doing it, is to build your own house. And even if you live in a house that has a mortgage, I would sell it and buy property away from a city, at least a little ways, and build your own. And there's ways to do that are really creative and unique, that you just don't know what you don't know until you know it, And if I would have known what I know now, I would have built my house much bigger for much less money. So anyway, it's easier to learn from other people's mistakes than to make all of your own, right? I mean, that mistake cost me over $100,000. So, it took me a long time to save that money up, and it took me a lot of work to be able to do that. But now I know a better way. I know another way. Like my friends, they sold the dump, that glass right there, that broken glass, the blue tumbled broken glass. They sold that to the dump for $1 a pound. So they sold the dump trash for $1 a pound. That makes sense, right? That's better than throwing it away and not having that as a resource. So I'm gonna have to be a little bit sneaky, because I don't know if you're really supposed to record these folks or not. So we'll do what we can do here. So this place is busy all day, almost every day. They're even here on Sundays. And all right, so here we go. We're gonna. Hello. Here for the chip yard waste.
Yep, there you go.
All right, thank you. Okay, so they give us a cool little tag that gives us our weight as we go in, the weight of the vehicle. And it won't show up until we get a receipt. But so I know that my truck weighs roughly 7,700 pounds when it's got about 2,000 pounds of stuff on it, in addition to whatever I have as fuel or tools or anything like that on my truck. So there's just load after load after load of things that should be recycled, separated, recycled, and reused. And there's all sorts of really creative ways for us to do this stuff. You know, like instead of making asphalt that is pretty weak, over in other countries, they're making an asphalt alternative that's really strong, right? Because that makes sense. And they're using the plastics. They heat up the plastics and they add rocks and sand and stuff to it, and they're making that into their roads. And so their roads are just really, really tough. And that's the bucktooth go-kart that loads us up. And let's see here. I'm going to put you down for a second here because this window is a bit of a pain to get up. I should fix that one of these days, right? There's all sorts of things that should be done, but they aren't always right when we think they should be. So, let's see here. I'm going to have to just put you down for a minute. All right. Cool. Now we'll just build you a little shelf here, and maybe you can watch what's going on. Right. Alright, so I don't know if you can see any of that, but that's what it is. So we're all tarped in. My shoes are full of sawdust. So we'll get rid of those. And get these windows back down because it's about 90 degrees today, probably. There we go. So that facility has a influx all day long of like cars and trucks. You know, they're sitting like 7 or 8 wide right now, dropping off their household trash. And when I first moved here, this mountain wasn't here. So it kind of reminds me of that movie Idiocracy, where they're making mountains out of trash, and they tried to pile them up too high, and then they collapse. So, you know, kind of crazy. So now we're just heading back, and we'll get weighed out, and go spread all this out. I don't know that the camera's gonna last, the video's gonna last that long, but there's other videos on the YouTube channel about that. So it kind of just shows me shoveling a lot. So it's how I stay in shape, though. People are like, "What are you on drugs or something? Why? How are you so skinny? Why are you got like?" You got good fitness going on, but we never see you at the gym. I'm like, well, I don't need a gym membership. I got a farm. You know, what do you raise? I raise consciousness. That's what I raise. And apricots. Hello. Thanks a lot. Alright, so this is what this looks like. So we got 1,900 pounds today. Oh, and I guess I was thinking of my other truck. So the gross weight today is 8,000 pounds. So but it's free. And you know, if I take this stuff, here's my stack of receipts from like last couple days. Right? If I take this stuff now and I just pile it into cherry bins, and that's what the intention of this load is get it into cherry bins and starting to get them watered. I'm going to be creating some really, really good soil really quickly. And soil is worth money, just like in the movie Water World. You know, soil, because it has all of the fungi and the nutrients and the ability of absorbing and holding on to water and slowly releasing it. You know, when it's working right, it's worth a lot. You know, and that's so I'm kind of a metaphysician. I look at correlations between things, and things that are phonetically similar sometimes have other similarities, right? So like where do I want to go with this? So you know, sometimes you got to be careful how you say things, or people take it the wrong way. So soil. What if soil? Because there's a lot of different books, popular, religious type books that talk about how we we are made of the dust, right? We're made of the land, which we are. I mean, we eat a salad or a hamburger, and our body gets bigger, and it keeps getting bigger to whatever this idea of where we think we are or what we think we are manifests, right? I mean, that's how it works. And if we think of ourselves in a different way, and we use actions behind it to create the new you become the new you of what you thought. So if we tend to the soil of the land, and we can grow the foods that we need to turn into our bodies that we enjoy using, maybe we should tend to our soul too, and realize that if we are conscious as to how we are using this body, I mean, like, this is my flesh suit, and if I'm compulsive with it, I might be trying to just have sex and eat food all the time, right? Because those are fun. Those are satisfying to the body. But now if I am conscious about it, and I'm like, well, hey, I mean, if you have unprotected sex with people, you could get a disease, right? And or have an unwanted child, not an unwanted child, but maybe a child that you're not ready or willing to raise, right? So then it becomes somebody else's job because people aren't being self-responsible, right? Or if I was eating too much, right? If I'm ordering the triple bacon cheeseburger, that guy cooking right along. Luckily there ain't no rules out here. This is all basically a sovereign nation. This is all private land. The county didn't put the paving on this part of this road. The residents that live over in this area, they pooled their resources and they put this road down. And it has potholes, and they're repaired sometimes, and sometimes they're not. But you know what? That's okay, because I didn't have to pay for it, and I'm driving responsibly and respectfully on it. I'm not going to be peeling out my tires or coming through their neighborhood going really fast, or being a pain in the butt, because it's when people are pain in the butts that they put up gates. And really, I mean, this is a sovereign community, so they could just put up a gate and say, unless you have a key for up into this private property, you're not welcome through this gate. But then they would have problems getting their UPS deliveries and FedEx and stuff. And it's like, yeah, and FedEx and UPS, they still deliver out in places like this every day. So the reason that people are living right next to a Walmart is nuts to me, right? Because it's expensive to live within 5 minutes or 10 minutes of a Walmart. Whereas if you're just outside of town a little ways, there's areas up here that, well, not anymore. You have to go out. You have to go a little farther now. But there's areas up here that, $500 an acre. So, for like $8,000 or $10,000, you might end up with like 15 acres or 18 acres or something. And I wish I would have bought more property when I first moved here, because now it's a bit more right here, but it's still actually fairly affordable. I mean, people are doing it, and this is only about a 15 to 20 minute drive from town, so it's really not that bad. Well, and we went the back way, and so you saw, and we we came out east of town right there, so it would have been another 5 minutes to get into town. But yeah, I mean, it's if we all spread out a little bit, the perception that the planet is overpopulated really goes away. And if everybody starts acting as a creator in what they're experiencing in their life instead of just a consumer, so like working your landscape so that it holds onto the water, growing your own foods. If you're gonna eat animals, maybe you should raise them, right? Instead of relying on somebody else to do it. And that's the thing, is there's so many options that we're not being advertised that they make sense. It's just that nobody makes money off of it, right? I mean, if instead of you hiring a septic company to come and pump your septic tank for $200, what if you just pumped it into a ditch, right? And then it just goes into the ditch, like you dig a hole, right? And that is a great way to do this. It's just that we're creating systems that don't work everywhere, but yet we're trying to make everybody everywhere do the same systems. And that's just nuts, because we're not all living in the same space. We're not all just we're not clones, right? We all have different things that we do, and although they might be similar, but they're not the same, right? So anyway, what do we talk about now? What do we talk about now? Talk about housing, shelter. Like, if you go and work 30 years for a house, it should be a house that maybe will last 3 or 4 generations. So your grandchildren won't have to work 30 years for a house. They could actually work 30 years towards things that they would rather see done in the world than just paying for space to exist. Right? Just thing out here too. Living all the way up here on the top of this hill, it might be cost preventative to do a well. But you could do a big water tank, and it snows enough that if you did some diversion, you'd be able to collect the water from the snow melt off and into your water tanks, and then you'd be able to use it all year long. It's like a septic field. You don't really need a septic field. You just need to use a composting toilet and a gray water system. A gray water system, you could just, you could run down to a lagoon, or you can even use the lagoon as your black water. Just make sure you put the customary no swimming sign on it. You get the real rebels that are like, screw you, man. You say no swimming, but I want to swim. And it's like, all right, well, just know what you're swimming in. You got to be a rebel with a cause, right? Not a rebel without a cause. Just because somebody says to do something one way, you don't want to be just doing it because you can. I mean, that's an expression of freedom, which I appreciate. But there's also ways to express your freedom just by living free and not aligning yourself. See, with people that do shit like that, pains in the ass. Those are the people that got participation trophies for picking their nose and chasing butterflies. Come on, focus. We should stop pushing our will onto other people. Because like right there, they said, I don't want to take care of my trash. So I'm just going to drop it where somebody else is probably going to have to take care of it. You know, that's just, that person probably votes, you know, so that way they can choose if it's a red or blue team that has to come and pick it up, or force people to pay taxes to pay somebody else to pick it up. Just pick up your stuff. Take care. Be responsible. Self-responsibility is seemingly lost in this world today. So, anyway, we're almost back. That's a long enough video. Appreciate you all sticking around if you have for this long. And yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side.